The morning sun rose over HFY Colony like it did every other day. Children walked to school. Workers filled the streets. Coffee shops opened their doors. It was a peaceful Tuesday in the year 2847, and nobody knew it would be their last peaceful day. Do-Yun Park stood on his balcony, drinking tea and watching the city wake up. He was 67 years old, retired from the Terran fleet for almost 20 years. Now he served as the civilian governor of HFY, a job that mostly involved attending meetings and cutting ribbons. He liked the quiet life. After 30 years of military service, he had earned it. His communicator buzzed. It was his granddaughter, Yuna. "Grandfather, don't forget lunch today," she said. "You promised." Do-Yun smiled. "I never forget lunch with you." "The restaurant near your university, yes?" "Yes, 1 o'clock. Don't be late," he promised he wouldn't. Then he finished his tea and went to work. At the Colonial Defense Center, Taiwo Troya was running another boring drill. He commanded 12 ships, all of them old, all of them slow. The Terran Republic hadn't built new warships in almost 400 years. They didn't need them. Humanity had chosen peace. They solved problems with words, not weapons. Taiwo often wondered why they even had a defense force. Pirates sometimes caused trouble, but nothing serious. His job was mostly paperwork. His censor officer, a young woman named Soman, suddenly sat up straight. "Sir, I'm detecting hyperspace signatures." "Multiple signatures." Taiwo walked over to her screen. "Probably merchant ships." "Check the registry." "I did, sir." "They're not in the registry?" Her voice trembled. "Sir, I'm counting 50 signatures." "No, wait, 100. 200. The color drained from Taiwo's face? "Sound the alarm," he said quietly. Then louder, "Sound the alarm. Get everyone to battle stations." The ships emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of insects. They were black and angular, covered in spines and weapons. Velthari warships? The Velthari Dominion was an empire of insectoid aliens who believed that strength was the only law. They had watched humanity spread across 3 star systems without any real military. They had watched and they had laughed. Today, they came to teach the humans a lesson. The Velthari Supreme Commander, a creature named Crix, looked at the human colony below. He saw cities full of soft creatures. He saw 12 tiny ships rising to meet his fleet of 300. He felt something like joy. "They send toys against us," he said to his officers. "Destroy them. Then burn the cities." Taiwo knew he was going to die. He knew his ships were going to die. But maybe, if they fought hard enough, they could buy time for the civilians to evacuate. "All ships, engage the enemy," he ordered. "Make them pay for every meter." The battle lasted 11 minutes. Human ships fired everything they had. They destroyed 8 Velthari vessels. Then they were gone, blown apart like paper in a storm. Taiwo's flagship was hit by 4 missiles at once. The last thing he saw was fire. On the ground, Do-Yun felt the building shake. He ran to the window and saw the sky burning. Velthari ships hung over the city like demons, raining fire down on everything below. His communicator screamed with emergency alerts. "All citizens evacuate immediately." "This is not a drill." "All citizens." The building across the street exploded. Then the one next to it. Then the one next to that. Du-Hyen called Yuna. The call wouldn't connect. He tried again. Nothing. He ran for the door. But the ceiling came down on top of him, across the city. Yuna was in our university library when the attack began. She heard explosions in the distance, then closer, then everywhere. Students screamed and ran. The librarian shouted for everyone to get to the basement. Yuna tried to call her grandfather. No answer. She tried to call her mother on Earth. No connection. She was running for the stairs when the library was hit. The floor disappeared beneath her feet. She fell into darkness, buried under broken concrete and twisted metal. The bombardment lasted 3 hours. When it finally stopped, HFY Colony was gone. Where a city of 2 million people once stood, there was only ash and rubble. The Velthari didn't land troops. They didn't take prisoners. They simply destroyed everything, then moved on to their next target. 2 more human colonies burned that day. Miran, Songdo, Combined with Hawan, 4.7 million humans died before dinner time on Earth. The news arrived like a punch to the heart. People gathered around screens, watching footage of burning cities. They saw Velthari ships hanging in the sky like gods of death. They saw their fellow humans running, screaming, dying. The Velthari Supreme Commander sent a message to Earth. His ugly face filled every screen. "Humans," he said, "you have spread across the stars, but you have no strength. You have no warriors. You are prey, and we are predators. Surrender now, and some of you will be allowed to serve us. Resist, and you will all die like the weaklings on those 3 worlds. You have 1 week to decide." The transmission ended. For a long moment, Earth was silent. Then the silence turned to grief. Then the grief turned to something else. In the ruins of Hawan, rescue workers searched for survivors. They didn't find many. But under a collapsed library, they found a young woman still breathing. Yuna was pulled from the rubble after 16 hours. She had 3 broken ribs, a fractured skull, and burns on 40% of her body. She would survive. She would never forget. Somewhere else in the ruins, another team found Doyun. He was badly hurt but alive. When he opened his eyes, the first thing he asked about was his granddaughter. "We found her," the medic said. "She's alive." Doyun closed his eyes and cried. On Earth, Prime Counselor Jasu Han called an emergency session of the United Council. Leaders argued about what to do. Some wanted to surrender. Some wanted to negotiate. Some wanted to fight but didn't know how. Jasu listened to them all. Then she stood up. "Enough," she said. Her voice was quiet but hard as steel. "They didn't declare war. They committed genocide. They killed millions of our people, and they're laughing about it." She looked around the room at the frightened faces. 400 years ago, we put away our weapons. We chose peace. We thought we would never need them again. She took a deep breath. "We were wrong." She pressed a button on her console. "Authorization code, Han-77 Dragon. Activate Dragon Protocol." Somewhere deep beneath the Himalayan mountains, lights turned on in tunnels that had been dark for centuries. Machines that had been sleeping began to wake up. And in the darkness, something enormous began to move. The dragons were waking up, and they were hungry. Deep beneath the Himalayan mountains, the tunnels stretched for hundreds of kilometers. They had been built 500 years ago, during humanity's darkest time. The Great War had killed billions. Nations had burned. The planet itself had nearly died. When it was over, the survivors made a promise. Never again. They would never again build weapons of mass destruction. They would never again wage war. They would seal away their terrible machines and choose a different path. For 400 years, they kept that promise. Now, Minji Lee walked through those ancient tunnels with a heavy heart. She was the chief engineer of Project Dragon, a job that had been meaningless until yesterday. Her whole career had been about maintaining machines that everyone hoped would never be used. The lights came on as she walked, revealing what lay in the darkness: warships, thousands of them. They hung in massive underground hangars, perfectly preserved, waiting for the day they would be needed. These were not normal warships. These were monsters, planet crackers, system killers, weapons, so powerful that humanity had been ashamed to admit they existed. Minji stopped in front of the largest ship. It was called the Gwanggedo, named after an ancient warrior king. It was 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could crack a moon in half. Her communicator buzzed. It was the Prime Counselor herself. "Minji," Jasu said. "How long until the fleet is ready?" Minji did the math in her head. "The ships are in perfect condition. We maintain them well. But we need crews. We need commanders. Most of our people have never seen real combat." "I'm working on that," Jasu said. "Just get the ships ready?" "Yes, ma'am." Minji paused. "Counselor, are you sure about this? Once we wake the dragons, we can't put them back to sleep." There was silence on the line. Then Jasu spoke, and her voice was cold. "They killed 4.7 million of our people. They burned our children alive. They're laughing at us right now, waiting for us to surrender. She took a breath. I'm sure. The call ended. Minji looked up at the Guang ghetto and whispered, I hope we don't regret this. On Mars, Yun Wuxin was tending his garden when the message arrived. He was 73 years old, retired for 15 years. He had been a fleet admiral once, the youngest in Terran history. He had commanded the last real military operation humanity ever conducted, putting down a rebellion on the outer colonies. After that, there was nothing left to do. The fleet was mothballed. The soldiers went home. Yunwu grew tomatoes. The message was simple. Dragon protocol activated. Report to Earth immediately. Authorization. Prime Counselor Han. Yunwu stared at the words for a long time. His hands trembled. He knew what Dragon Protocol meant. He had helped design it 60 years ago as a last resort against extinction-level threats. He never thought he would see it used. He called his wife. I have to go to Earth. She understood. She had been married to a soldier for 50 years. Come back to me, she said. I will. He wasn't sure if that was true. At the Terran Military Academy, young officers were being rushed through emergency training. One of them was Jinsu Kang, 25 years old, at the top of his class. He had joined the academy because he loved space travel. He thought he would spend his career exploring the stars, maybe doing some peacekeeping work. Now he was learning how to kill. These are the weapon systems of the Dragon-class battleship, the instructor said, pointing at a holographic display. Gravity lances can crush a ship from the inside. Quantum disruptors can erase matter from existence. Nanoplague missiles can eat through any armor. Jinsu raised his hand. Sir, I thought these weapons were banned. They were sealed away, the instructor corrected. There's a difference. They were always there, waiting. We just hoped we'd never need them. But sir, we chose peace. We promised to protect our people, the instructor interrupted. The Velthari killed millions of our people. They're planning to kill millions more. So now we do what we have to do? Jinsu felt sick. This wasn't what he had signed up for. But he also thought about the footage from Hewan, Miran, and Songdo. He thought about the children screaming as fire fell from the sky. Maybe some promises had to be broken to keep others. Hein Wu arrived on Earth and was taken directly to the council chambers. Jinsu was waiting for him. Thank you for coming, Admiral, she said. I'm not an admiral anymore. You are now. She handed him a document. I'm giving you command of the Dragon Fleet, full authority. Whatever you need, you get. Yunwu read the document. His title was Supreme Commander, a rank that hadn't existed in 4 centuries. The last time someone had this title, he nearly destroyed the world, Yunwu said. The last time someone had this title, he saved what was left. Jinsu met his eyes. I know what I'm asking you to become. I know the cost. But I also know that you're the only one who can do this. Yunwu thought about his garden on Mars. He thought about his wife. He thought about the peaceful retirement he had earned. Then he thought about 4.7 million dead humans, and the millions more who would die if he said no. I'll do it, he said. But I want you to understand something. Once I start, I won't stop until it's finished. There will be no negotiation, no mercy. They wanted to see what humanity can do, so I'm going to show them. Jinsu nodded. Show them. The Dragon Fleet came together faster than anyone expected. Veterans answered the call from every colony. Old soldiers who had thought their fighting days were over strapped on uniforms that still fit. Young officers like Jinsu were thrown into positions of responsibility they weren't ready for. And in the underground shipyards, the ancient warships came back to life. Minji supervised the activation of each vessel. Reactors that had been cold for centuries burned hot again. Weapon systems ran diagnostic checks and found themselves in perfect working order. Navigation computers updated their star maps and calculated routes to Velthari space. 10,000 ships. It was the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. On the surface, people watched the ships rise from hidden locations all over Earth. They came up from under mountains, from beneath oceans, from inside asteroids. They filled the sky until there was no blue left, only metal and fire. The Valkyrie intercepted images of the human mobilization. They were confused at first. Where had these ships come from? Surely the humans didn't have this kind of military power. Supreme Commander Crix laughed when he saw the footage. So the prey has found some old toys, he said. It doesn't matter. They are still soft. They have never fought a real war. They will break at the first sign of blood. His officers laughed with him. They had conquered dozens of species. Humans would be no different. They had no idea what was coming. On Earth, Hyunwoo addressed the fleet for the first time. His face appeared on every screen in every ship. Soldiers of the Terran Republic, he said. 400 years ago we put down our weapons and chose peace. We thought we would never need to fight again. We were wrong, he paused, letting the words sink in. The Valkyrie think we are weak because we chose peace. They think we are prey because we don't like killing. They are about to learn the truth, his voice hardened. We didn't choose peace because we couldn't fight. We chose peace because we knew what we were capable of. We knew the monsters we could become. We sealed away our weapons because we were afraid of ourselves. He leaned forward. The Valkyrie woke the dragons. Now they will burn. Across the fleet, 10,000 crews roared their approval. The dragons were awake and they were ready to hunt. The dragon fleet moved through space like a wave of death. 10,000 warships, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a city. At their head flew the Gwongetto, with Supreme Commander Yunwoo Shin on the bridge. Beside him stood Captain Sung Ho Yoon, who had come out of retirement to command the flagship. Sung Ho was 61 years old, one of the few humans alive who had seen real combat. First Valkyrie outpost in 1 hour, Sung Ho reported. Their defense fleet is already moving to intercept. Yunwoo studied the tactical display. The Valkyrie had 500 ships defending their border. They thought it would be enough. It would not be enough. How many Valkyrie in their fleet? Yunwoo asked, best estimate about 50,000 crew members. Yunwoo nodded slowly. 50,000 Valkyrie for 4.7 million humans. That's not even close to fair. His voice went cold. But it's a start. In a different part of the fleet, Yunbi Park prepared her fighter for launch. She was 44 years old, a doctor by training, not a soldier. But her father was lying in a hospital bed on Earth. Her daughter was covered in burns and scars. And her home colony was a field of ash. She had volunteered for combat the day after the attack. They told her she was too old, too inexperienced, too valuable as a doctor. She told them to give her a ship or she would steal one. They gave her a ship. Now she sat in the cockpit, checking her weapons, thinking about her family. Her father, Do-yun, had begged her not to go. I already lost your mother, he said. I can't lose you too. I have to do this, she told him. For Yuna, for everyone. He understood. He didn't like it, but he understood, her communicator crackled. Strike Wing 7, prepare for launch. We go in right behind the main fleet. Yunbi took a deep breath. Copy that. Ready to fly? The battle began at 0600 hours. Terran Standard Time, the Valkyrie fleet spread out in a defensive formation, confident in their numbers and their experience. They had fought and won hundreds of battles. They had never lost a war. The Dragon fleet did not slow down. They did not spread out. They flew in a tight formation, straight at the center of the Valkyrie line. They're charging right at us, a Valkyrie officer reported. No tactics at all. They must be desperate. Let them come, the Valkyrie commander said. We'll crush them in seconds. The fleets were 30 seconds apart when the dragon ships opened fire. The Valkyrie had never seen weapons like these. Gravity lances reached out and crushed ships like insects. Quantum disruptors erased entire squadrons from existence. Nanoplague missiles ate through Valkyrie armor like acid, leaving nothing but floating scrap. In the first 60 seconds, the Valkyrie lost 200 ships. They tried to fight back, but their weapons barely scratched the Dragon fleet's shields. The human ships had been built to fight wars against enemies far worse than the Valkyrie. They had been built to survive anything. In the second minute, the Velthari lost another 200 ships. The Velthari commander screamed for retreat. His ships turned and ran, but the dragon fleet was faster. They hunted down every fleeing vessel, every escape pod, every lifeboat. No survivors. The battle lasted 17 minutes. 500 Velthari ships destroyed. 0 human losses. On the bridge of the Guangetto, the crew stared at their screens in disbelief. They had trained for this, prepared for this, but they had never imagined it would be so one-sided. Sung Ho looked at Hyunwoo. Orders, sir. Hyunwoo's face was stone. Continue advance. Next target, Velthari colony world of Crax Prime, population 80 million. There was a moment of silence. Everyone understood what that meant. Sir, Junsu spoke up from his station. He had been assigned to the flagship as a junior tactical officer. Are we going to bomb the colony? There are civilians there. Hyunwoo turned to look at him. Were there civilians on Hwan? On Naran? On Sondo? Yes, sir, but then they should have thought about that before they bombed ours. Junsu wanted to argue, but he saw the look in Hyunwoo's eyes. There was no mercy there. Only cold, calculated revenge. The Dragon Fleet reached Crax Prime 6 hours later. The Velthari had more ships waiting for them, 1,000 this time, but the result was the same. Human weapons tore through their defenses like they weren't even there. Then the fleet turned, its guns on the planet, but Hyunwoo didn't bomb the cities. Instead, he targeted military bases, weapon factories, shipyards. He destroyed everything that could be used to make war, but he left the civilian areas alone. Sung Ho was surprised. I thought we were going to burn it all. Not yet, Hyunwoo said. First, we take away their ability to fight. Then we make them watch as we destroy everything they've built. I want them to feel helpless. I want them to feel exactly what our people felt. In her fighter, Yunbi led her strike wing against a ground target, a military command center buried under a mountain. They punched through the Velthari air defenses like they were made of paper. Target destroyed, she reported. Moving to secondary objective. Her wingman, a young pilot named Jihoon, flew beside her. Commander Park, there are Velthari escape vehicles leaving the base. Should we pursue? Yunbi hesitated. Those vehicles were probably carrying officers, not civilians, but they were also running away. They weren't fighting anymore. She thought about her father. She thought about Yuna. She thought about the children of Hwan who never got a chance to escape. Pursue and destroy, she said. No one gets away. It was the first time she had killed anyone. It would not be the last. Supreme Commander Crix received the news of the defeat at Crax Prime with disbelief. 1,000 ships destroyed. An entire colony's military infrastructure gone. And the humans had lost nothing. This is impossible, he said. Where did they get these weapons? Where did they get these ships? His intelligence officers had no answers. The humans had been peaceful for 400 years. They had no military to speak of. And yet, somehow, they had produced a fleet capable of crushing the Dominion. We underestimated them, one officer said quietly. Clearly. Crix slammed his claw against the table. Send word to all systems. Full mobilization. Every ship, every soldier. We will meet them with the full power of the Dominion, and we will, sir. An aide interrupted him. We're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Crix straightened. Put it through. Hyunwoo's face appeared on the screen. He looked calm, almost bored. Supreme Commander Crix, he said. I wanted to introduce myself. I am Hyunwoo Shin, Supreme Commander of the Terran Dragon Fleet. You killed 4.7 million of my people. You bombed our children while they were walking to school. You burned our cities and laughed about it. His eyes hardened. Now it's our turn. Crix tried to respond, but Hyunwoo cut him off. You called us prey. You called us weak. You thought we were helpless because we chose peace. A small, cold smile crossed his face. We didn't choose peace because we were weak. We chose peace because we knew what we were. We knew the monsters we could become. He leaned forward. You woke the dragons, Crix. Now you're going to burn. The transmission ended. Crick stood in silence for a long moment. For the first time in his life, he felt something he had never felt before. Fear. The human fleet was coming, and nothing could stop them. Across the galaxy, other alien civilizations watched the war unfold. They had known humans as peaceful traders, friendly diplomats, harmless neighbors. Now they saw something else. They saw humans cutting through the Velthri dominion like a hot knife through butter. They saw ancient weapons that could destroy planets. They saw a species that had pretended to be sheep but was really a pack of wolves, and they were terrified. Because if the humans could do this to the Velthri, they could do it to anyone. The dragons had risen, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 months after the first battle, the dragon fleet had destroyed everything in its path. 12 Velthri colony worlds had fallen. Their military was shattered. Their empire was burning. Yuna Kim walked through the ruins of a Velthri city, stepping over broken buildings and shattered machines. She wore the uniform of a combat medic now, having joined the fight despite her injuries. The burns on her arms still hurt, but she didn't care. She needed to be here. She needed to see. A Velthri child was crying in the rubble. It was small, about the size of a human toddler, with gray skin and 4 arms. It was covered in dust and blood. Yuna stopped. The child looked up at her with huge, terrified eyes. For a moment she thought about Hewan. She thought about human children crying in the ruins, dying in the fires. She thought about the Velthri ships dropping bombs on schools and hospitals. Then she knelt down and held out her hand. "It's okay," she said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you." The child didn't understand her words, but it understood her tone. It crawled toward her, trembling. Yuna picked it up and carried it to safety. Another medic saw her. "What are you doing?" "That's the enemy." "That's a child," Yuna said. "It didn't bomb anyone." She kept walking, holding the Velthri child close. On the Guangetto, Yunwu received reports of the latest victories. Another Velthri fleet destroyed. Another world conquered. The path to the enemy homeworld was almost clear, but he felt no joy. He felt nothing at all anymore, Sung-ho noticed. "Sir, you should rest. You've been on the bridge for 30 hours. I'll rest when it's over. With respect, sir, you're no good to us dead." Sung-ho lowered his voice. "And some of the crew are worried. They say you've become ... cold." Yunwu turned to look at him. "Cold? They attacked our homes without warning. They killed millions of our people for no reason except that they could. They were going to enslave the survivors." His voice was flat. "What would they have me be? Warm?" Sung-ho didn't have an answer. On Earth, Jasuhan faced her own battle. The war was going well, almost too well, but the cost was becoming clear. Thousands of Velthri ships destroyed. Millions of Velthri soldiers killed. And now the fleet was approaching the enemy homeworld. The question was obvious. What would they do when they got there? Some council members wanted total destruction. Bomb the planet until nothing was left. Make sure the Velthri could never threaten anyone again. Others wanted restraint. Defeat them? Yes. Punish them? Yes. But genocide? Could humanity live with that? "We didn't start this war," one counselor argued. "But we have to end it in a way we can be proud of." "Proud?" Another shot back. "They murdered 4.7 million of our people. They deserve everything they get." Jisoo listened to the arguments, but her mind was far away. She thought about the recordings from Hewan, the children screaming, the buildings falling, the sky on fire. She thought about the parents, who would never see their sons and daughters again. She also thought about the Velthri child that Yuna had rescued. She had seen the report. What were they becoming? Taiwu Choi had survived the first battle at Hewan. He had floated in space for 6 hours before being picked up by a rescue ship. Half his crew was dead. The other half wished they were. The Velthri had taken him prisoner. He spent 3 weeks in one of their camps. Before human forces freed him, he didn't talk about what happened in those 3 weeks. He didn't have to. The scars on his body and the emptiness in his eyes said everything. Now he commanded a ship in the Dragon Fleet. The Dokdo. He had requested frontline duty. He wanted to kill Velthri. He wanted to kill as many as he could. Captain, his sensor officer reported. Enemy transport detected. Looks like civilians. They're trying to evacuate before our ground forces arrive. Taewoo looked at the screen. The transport was slow and unarmed. An easy target. Destroy it, he said. His weapons officer hesitated. Sir, they're not military. They're just, I know what they are. Destroy it. The weapons officer looked at him for a long moment. Then she fired. The transport exploded in a ball of fire. 2,000 Velthari, dead in an instant. Taewoo watched the debris drift through space. He felt nothing. Good. Yuna heard about the transport. She heard about other things too. Human soldiers killing prisoners. Human ships bombing civilian areas. The war was changing them, turning them into the thing they hated. She requested a meeting with Hyunwoo. It took 3 days to get it. When she finally stood before him, she was surprised by how tired he looked. This was the great Supreme Commander? He looked like a man who hadn't slept in months. You wanted to see me, he said. Make it quick? Sir, I'm concerned about the conduct of the war. In what way? We're killing civilians. We're destroying transports. We're becoming like them. Hyunwoo's expression didn't change. They started it. I know they did. I was there. I was buried in the rubble. Yuna pulled up her sleeve, showing the burns that covered her arm. I know what they did. But when does it end? When we've killed them all? When we've burned every city, murdered every child? If that's what it takes to keep humanity safe, yes. Yuna stared at him. Then what are we saving? If we become monsters, what's the point? For a moment, something flickered in Hyunwoo's eyes. Pain, maybe? Or doubt, then it was gone. Thank you for your concern, he said. You're dismissed. Yuna left, feeling sick. This wasn't the war she had signed up for. The Dragon Fleet reached the Velthari homeworld on a cold Tuesday morning. 3 billion Velthari lived there, the heart of their civilization, the source of their power. And now it was surrounded by 10,000 human warships, each one ready to reduce it to ash. Hyunwoo looked at the planet on his screen. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. It could have been Earth. All ships report ready, Sung-ho said. We can commence bombardment on your order. Hyunwoo nodded slowly. This was the moment. One word from him and the Velthari species would cease to exist. He thought about Hwan. He thought about the 4.7 million dead. He thought about Yuna's words. His hand hovered over the button. On Earth. Jisoo watched the fleet's position update in real time. The council chamber was silent. Everyone knew what was about to happen. Should we contact him? Someone asked. Tell him to wait? Jisoo shook her head. This is his decision. We gave him the authority. But if he destroys the planet, then the Velthari are gone and we're safe forever. And we're guilty of genocide. Jisoo closed her eyes. Yes, on the Gwanggato, Hyunwoo's finger touched the button. One press. That's all it would take. The COM system crackled. An incoming transmission. The bridge went silent. Hyunwoo leaned back in his chair. Surrender? Now? After everything you've done? We cannot win this war. You have made that clear. Crix's voice was hollow. I am asking you to spare my people. You didn't spare ours. No, we didn't. Crix bowed his head. It was a mistake. We thought you were prey. We thought you were weak. He looked up. We were wrong. Hyunwoo stared at him for a long moment. Every part of him wanted to press that button. To end this species that had caused so much suffering. To make sure they could never hurt anyone again. But Yuna's words echoed in his mind. What are we saving? I will present your request to my government, Hyunwoo said finally. But I make no promises. He cut the transmission. Sung-ho looked at him. Sir, what do we do? Hyunwoo looked at the planet below. 3 billion lives waiting for him to decide their fate. We wait, he said. For now, we wait. But his hand never moved far from the button. The United Council met in emergency session to decide the fate of the Velthari species. 3 billion lives hung in the balance. Jisu Han stood at the center of the chamber, watching her fellow leaders argue. Some wanted blood, others wanted peace. All of them were afraid. We have to destroy them, Counselor Myung-ho said. If we let them live, they'll rebuild. They'll come back. They'll attack us again. We don't know that, Counselor Hejin countered. They've surrendered. They're broken. We can occupy their world, disarm them completely. Occupy them for how long? 100 years? 1,000? We can't watch them forever. The arguments went back and forth. Jisu let them talk. She needed to hear every voice before she made her decision. A message came in from the fleet. Do-yeon Park had requested to address the council. Jisu approved it. If anyone had earned the right to speak, it was him. Do-yeon's face appeared on the main screen. He was still recovering from his injuries, speaking from a hospital bed on Earth. His daughter was fighting at the front. His granddaughter was treating wounded soldiers and enemies alike. His entire world had been destroyed. Council members, he said. His voice was weak but clear. I know why you're afraid. I've seen what the Valkyrie can do. I was there when they burned Hwon. I watched my friends die. I nearly died myself. He paused, gathering his strength. Part of me wants them all dead. Part of me will never forgive them for what they did. But I keep thinking about something my granddaughter said. Another pause? She asked what we're saving. If we destroy them completely, we become like them. We become the monsters. And then what was the point of surviving? Myung-ho interrupted. With respect, Governor Park, your feelings are understandable, but this is a matter of security. My feelings? Do-yeon's eyes flashed. I lost everything. My home, my friends, almost my family. I have more reason than anyone to want revenge. But I'm telling you, if we destroy them, we lose something more important than safety. We lose ourselves. The chamber was silent, Do-yeon continued. We chose peace 400 years ago because we were ashamed of what we could do. We sealed away our weapons because we were afraid of the monsters we could become. If we used those weapons to commit genocide, then we should have stayed monsters. At least then we would have been honest about what we were. He took a shaky breath. Punish them. Disarm them. Make sure they can never threaten us again. But let them live. Not for their sake. For hours, the transmission ended. Jisu looked around the chamber. The mood had shifted. Faces that had been angry now looked thoughtful, uncertain. We'll put it to a vote, she said. But first, I want to tell you something. She stepped forward. Before the attack, I was like most of you. I thought war was behind us. I thought we would never need our weapons again. When Dragon Protocol was activated, I told myself it was necessary. I told myself we had no choice. She paused. I still believe that, but I've also watched what this war has done to us. I've seen reports of our soldiers killing prisoners. I've seen ships targeting civilian transports. I've seen the hate in our people's eyes, and it scares me more than the Valkyrie ever did. She looked at each council member in turn. We have the power to destroy them. Complete and total annihilation. No one could stop us. But just because we can do something doesn't mean we should. The question is not whether we can destroy them. The question is what kind of species we want to be. The vote was held. It was close. Closer than Jisu had expected. Mercy won by 2 votes. The message was sent to the fleet. Accept the Valkyrie surrender. No genocide. Humanity would win this war without becoming monsters. On the Gwanggedo, Hyunwoo received the orders. He read them twice, then 3 times. Then he sat in silence for a long moment. Sung-ho waited. The whole bridge waited. Finally, Hyunwoo opened a channel to the Valkyrie homeworld. Supreme Commander Crix, the Terran Council has accepted your surrender under the following conditions. He listed them. Complete disarmament. War crime tribunals. Reparations to human colonies. Permanent military oversight. The Valkyrie would survive, but they would never be a threat again. When he finished, Crix was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke. We accept your terms. Just like that, it was over. The war lasted 4 months. The Velthari lost everything they had built over 1,000 years. Their fleet was destroyed. Their military was disbanded. Their empire was ended, but they survived. Human forces landed on the Velthari homeworld, not as conquerors, but as wardens. They would stay for years, maybe decades, making sure the peace was kept. Taiwu was not happy with the decision. He argued, he protested, he demanded that the council reconsider. When they refused, he resigned his commission. "They killed my friends," he told Yunbi. "They tortured me for 3 weeks. And now we just let them live?" Yunbi understood his anger. She felt it too sometimes. But she had seen the Velthari cities, the Velthari children, the Velthari families trying to survive just like human families. They weren't all monsters. "We let them live because that's who we are," she said. "Or who we want to be." Taiwu shook his head. "I don't know if I can be that person." He left military service and disappeared. Yunbi heard he went to the outer colonies, where he could be alone with his ghosts. She hoped he would find peace someday. She wasn't sure he would. Yuna stayed with the medical corps. She worked in Velthari hospitals, treating humans and aliens side by side. It was hard at first. Some of her patients hated her. Some of her fellow medics questioned her loyalty, but slowly, things got better. Wounds healed. Trust grew. One day, she treated a Velthari soldier who had fought at Hewan. He had been there when the bombs fell. He had helped kill her people. She treated him anyway. When she was done, he looked at her with confusion. "Why did you help me?" "I am your enemy." "You were my enemy," she said. "Now you're my patient." "That's the only thing that matters." He stared at her for a long time. Then he said something she didn't expect. "I'm sorry. For what we did. For all of it. It wasn't enough. Nothing would ever be enough. But it was a start. Years passed. The occupation continued. Human and Velthari learned to live together, if not as friends, then at least not as enemies. On Hewan, the colony was rebuilt. New cities rose from the ashes. A memorial was constructed in the capital, bearing the names of all 2.3 million people who died that day. Do-yun visited the memorial often. He would sit in the garden, surrounded by flowers and fountains, and read the names. Sometimes he talked to them. Sometimes he just sat in silence. Yuna found him there one afternoon. She had come home to teach at the new university. Her students included humans, aliens from allied species, and even a few young Velthari. "How are you, grandfather?" she asked, sitting beside him. "Old," he said. "Tired, but I'm still here." She took his hand. They sat together watching the sunset. "Do you think we did the right thing?" she asked. "Letting them live?" Do-yun thought about it. "I don't know. Maybe they'll attack us again someday. Maybe our grandchildren will have to fight this war all over again." He paused. "But I think about the alternative. I think about what we would have become if we'd destroyed them. And I know we made the right choice." Yuna nodded. "We woke the dragons to save ourselves. We put them back to sleep to save our souls." Do-yun smiled. "That's a good way to put it." On Earth, the dragon fleet returned to its hidden shipyards. The ancient warships were powered down and sealed away once more. Hyun Woo-shin oversaw the process personally, making sure every weapon was secured, every system was locked. When it was done, he stood before the empty hangar where the Gwanggaeto had rested. "Sleep well," he said quietly, "and pray we never need you again." He retired to Mars, back to his garden and his wife. He never spoke of the war. He never wrote his memoirs. He just grew tomatoes and watched the sun set. Some nights he dreamed of fire. But less often as the years went by, the galaxy learned the truth about humanity that year. The humans were not aggressive. They did not seek conquest or glory. They preferred peace, trade, cooperation, but they were not helpless. They were not prey. They were the ones who chose to be peaceful, not because they couldn't fight, but because they knew what they could become if they did. In the galactic records, a new entry was added next to Homo sapiens classification: apex predator status, peaceful warning, do not provoke. The dragons were sleeping again, but everyone knew they were still there. waiting in the darkness, ready to wake up if they were needed. And nobody wanted to be the one to need them. The end.